and sharing my screen with you. Great. And we're going to look this week. Let's start with this one. We're going to look at making use of long suits, and in particular, when you're playing in a suit contract, you can very often establish a lot of tricks in a suit by ruffing one or more times. And we'll look at some examples about this in a moment, but basically, when you're attempting to do this in a suit contract, you need to think about how many cards you have in that suit, what distribution do you expect from the opponent's cards, and think about how many times you will need to ruff in order to establish a suit. And unless you're able to draw trumps first, you will sometimes have to think about whether you are able to ruff high or low. We'll look at some examples of this in a moment. And another thing that often comes up is, do you have enough entries to do this? So these are the things we're going to be trying to put into practice as we look at some hands. But before we look at hands, just look at this kind of distribution. Imagine you were playing, say, in a four-spade contract, and you've got this side suit where you've got 6-card suit in dummy, and you've got 2 cards in your own hand. And you should see that this is likely to be a very useful source of tricks. But you will need to establish this suit. And what you need to think about is the likely distribution of the opponent's cards. So you've got 8 diamonds here. This is not the trump suit, this is a side suit. And you need to realize that the most likely distribution is that they're divided, the 5 missing diamonds are divided 3-2. And if that is the case, you'll be able to establish this suit by ruffing once. In other words, you've got one loser there, but if you play the ace king and then ruff one, the rest of your diamonds will be good. And that ruff may need to be high. If they do divide 3-2, you may need to ruff that once with a high trump, unless you've drawn the opponent's trumps already. So that's a kind of thinking. Those 6-2 distributions in particular are really powerful. And if you see, a long suit like that, it's very often you can make a lot of tricks if you can establish that suit. So we're going to be looking at 6-2 distribution. And another distribution that's not quite as good is a 5-2 distribution, something like this. So here you've got 7 cards in this side suit, and you need to think about how many times you will need to ruff in order to establish the suit. Now, the most favorable distribution for you is that the missing 6 cards divide 3-3. But this is against the odds. If they do divide 3-3, however, then you can play the ace king, ruff once, and the suit will become established, and you'll be able to make the other 2 diamonds. So if you can, if you're lucky, you'll get this distribution. More likely, if you're missing 6 cards, the distribution will be 4-2. And if that's the case, you will have to ruff twice, and you will only establish 1 extra trick. So the way you would play this is play the ace, play the king, ruff once, and that may need to be higher for this if it's a 4-2 distribution. If you can then get back to dummy, ruff again, and then get back to dummy again to cash the last card. So very often it's a consideration of, do you have enough entries to do all that ruffing and to get back to your long suit? And you should try to cater for at least the most likely distribution. So 4-2 is most likely, and you should try to cater to that by planning to ruff twice. Do interrupt me if you have any questions about this. We'll switch to the other screen now and look at a few examples of hands involving this. And let's start off with this one, where you've opened 2 hearts. That's a weak 2 with a 6-card suit. Westover called 2 spades, and your partner jumped to 4 hearts. and that ended the auction, and the opponents led the king of spades. And it's worth thinking about what your plan is on this hand. So I like to think about where my potential losers are. So if I look at the spade suit, for example, I can see I've got two possible spade losers. In hearts, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I might, I've got 9 trump, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9 trump missing the queen. So if I'm lucky, I won't lose any hearts there. Diamonds, I've got a loser in the south hand, though maybe I could rough it. And clubs, I don't have any losers. But what I have is that long club suit. And that should be a source of tricks for me. In fact, if the missing clubs, there are 5 of them, divide 3, 2, I can establish a suit by ruffing once, and then I'll be able to take a number of club tricks. So that's going to be my plan on this hand. Let's win the first trick with the ace of spades. And because I've got so many trumps here, and because I've still got entries to the north hand, if you can draw trumps first, then that is a good thing to do. So I'm going to start by playing a heart over to the king. Then I'll play a heart back to the ace, and the queen drops, and I get the good news that the hearts have divided 2-2. So if you haven't been counting, this is a good time to double check your counting. You've just drawn 2 rounds, that's 8 have gone. There's 1 in dummy, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So confirm that all the hearts are out. And what I'm going to do now is turn my attention to clubs. And hopefully I'll be able to discard some losers if I can set up the clubs. So start winning with the king of clubs, winning the short hand, cross over to the ace. And if everyone follows, we're in great shape now, because that means there's just 1 club outstanding. And all I'm going to do is play another club, rough it. I can rough low because I've drawn all the opponent's trumps. And then I can get back to dummy. Here I've got 2 entries left to dummy, the ace of diamonds or the 10 of hearts. So I'll cross over to the ace of diamonds. And now my remaining clubs are good. And I'm going to be able to discard spade losers on those. And I'll discard a diamond on the last one. And then I've just got all trumps left. So played that way with normal breaks, you can actually make all 13 tricks. You basically set up the club suit and you were able to discard all your losers. If you try to play some other way, like ruffing diamonds, you still won't. You need to get rid of these 2 spade losers, and the club suit is a great way of doing that. So do watch out for those long suits. Very often it's a long suit in dummy, although there are some examples coming up where it's a long suit in your hand as well. Let's have a look at this one. And this time we open a spade. There's a 2 club overcall. My partner bids 2 diamonds. Comes back to me and I bid 2 hearts. So I'm showing 2 suits there, 5 in the first and 4 in the second. And my partner bids 3 spades. So they have some kind of support for me in spades and they're inviting game. And let's suppose I go to 4 spades on this hand. And the opponents lead a club. And down comes dummy. And I can see that that was quite a good bid by my partner there. And before I go too much further, I'm going to try and make a plan on this hand. Now, just imagine on this hand that what you decided to do was to win the ace of clubs. So let's suppose you win the first trick with the ace of clubs. If you now turn your attention to trumps, and let's suppose you draw the opponent's trumps in 3 rounds, my question is, if you do that, draw 3 rounds of trumps now, how many losers will you be left with? How many potential losers will you have left if your next step is to draw all the opponent's trumps? So I'm going to launch the first poll. And the question is, if you draw the opponent's trumps now in 3 rounds, how many losers will you have left? And 45% have gone for 4, 34% went for 2, and 21% went for 3, which is very interesting to me. Well, let's think about it. If we draw trumps now in 3 rounds, we'll be left with how many losers? 1 club loser, no diamond losers, because we've got the ace king, but we will have 3 potential heart losers. The 10, 8, and 2 are all possible losers. And if we have done that, we may lose all of those. So you may think you'll be able, so yes, I agree with the majority of you, or 45% of you, who said there are 4 losers there. And if you don't agree with that, you can speak up now or have a look at this video later and see what you think. But yes, you have 4 potential losers if you just draw trumps. But what we're going to do is, rather than try to ruff hearts, we're going to see if we can set up the diamond suit. And it's very similar to the last hand here, except we are lacking entries to dummy. Outside of the diamond suit, we really only have 1 entry, and that's in trumps. So we need to be a little bit careful about our entries here. Let's suppose we start off drawing 2 rounds of trumps with the king and the queen. We're deliberately keeping the ace there. Now, if everyone follows, now we know the trumps are going to divide 3-2. But what we're going to try and do is see if we can set up the diamonds. So again, with 8 diamonds here, we're going to cater to a 3-2 distribution by playing the diamonds here, playing the ace and then the king. And then if everyone follows, we're now actually in great shape, because we will now play another diamond. Of course, we're going to ruff this one high, because we know West has no more diamonds, so we'll ruff that one high. And now we have now established the diamonds, and we know there's just 1 trump left, so we can lead win with the ace of spades, drawing the last trump, and now we can cash our 3 diamonds. So we'll play the cash our diamonds, throwing away some losers, and at the end we'll just end up with 1 loser left that we can't get rid of. So we'll lose 1 heart at the end. But we'll make 12 tricks on this one. And it was all about establishing the diamonds. We had a reasonably favorable break in both trump and in diamonds to make that happen. And that's really what we needed. We also had, so actually whatever they lead here, we can always make 2 over tricks according to the computer by establishing the diamond suit. Do interrupt me if you have any questions on that. Let's try this one. Here we open a spade. My partner bids 2 clubs, and I bid 3 spades here. That's a jump there, because I've got a very good 6-card suit, and I've got how many points? 8, 9, 12. I've got 15 points and a very good 6-card suit. So I'm jumping. That shows more like 16 points, and we end up in 4 spades again. And the opponents here lead the king of hearts. And again, we're going to try to look at how many losers we have and how we're going to avoid some of those. I can see I've got no spade losers, but I've got a heart loser and 2 diamond losers. I've got 1 heart loser and 2 diamond losers. I'm not going to lose any clubs, and in fact the clubs are hopefully going to provide me with a source of tricks for me to discard some of those losers. So that's what I'm going to do on this hand. And the way to play this is to win that first trick with your hand in your hand. And I think I'm going to draw trumps first. So I start off by winning the queen, playing a spade back, and everyone follows. So there's just one more spade to get rid of. Get rid of the last trump. And fortunately on this hand, as well as the clubs, I've got the ace of diamonds. So what I'm going to do is start off winning in the shorthand again, cross over to the ace, and then play the another club, ruffing that. All the trumps have gone, so I can ruff low. And fortunately, I've got the ace of diamonds, which will allow me to get back to dummy and cash 3 clubs. And when I do, I can discard my remaining losers and actually make 13 tricks again on this hand. So again, look for those long suits in dummy. And very often, if you're able to establish that, that can be a great source of tricks. Incidentally, on this one, if I go back to the beginning and click on the GIB button, you'll see that I was quite lucky in that they led a heart, and that can lead to 3 over tricks. Their best lead, as it turns out on this hand, is a diamond. And if they lead a diamond, then according to the computer, I won't make any over tricks. And the reason for that, of course, is that that knocks out your only entry to dummy, the ace of diamonds. So you can't do the same thing. You don't have enough entries if that's how they defend. But on any other lead other than a diamond, you can make the 3 over tricks and actually make all 13 tricks. Let's have a look at another one. And this time we open with a weak 3 hearts. That shows a 7 card suit. There's a 3 spade overcall, but your partner bids 4 hearts, and that ends the auction. And again, let's try and make a plan on this hand. Dummies looks very nice, got a great fit in hearts. But let's start by thinking about how many losers we have here. So we've got, actually I've got a poll on this one, and I'm going to launch a poll in a moment. And the question is, how many potential losers do you think you have here? Good. Let's have a look at the results. And the majority here have gone for 2, with 26% saying 4 and 11% saying 3. Well, what do we think about that? Well, let's go through the suits one at a time. In spades, I have 2 losers. What about hearts? Well, I've got 7 trump in my hand and 4 in dummy. So the opponents have only got 2. So I'm not going to lose any hearts. No matter how they divide, I've only got 2. So I'm not going to lose to the queen. So I count that as 0 losers. I don't have any diamond losers, and I don't have any club losers. I've got the ace and the king, and after that I can rub. So yes, I'm with the majority of you. You have 2 losers. If you came to a different conclusion and don't understand why it's only 2, then you by all means ask me about it. But yes, you only have 2 losers here. So
Tony, could you not assume West has 7 spades?
Oh, you're thinking that West has 7 spades. Well, how would that affect things?
Then East would have no spades.
So then you're going to rough it, right? So if you play your ace, yes. Well, it's possible that West has 7 spades, but by no means certain. I mean, West has got enough to make a 3 spade overcall. They haven't made a preemptive bid. So I would say they've, got at least a good 5 or 6 card suit. They may have 7, and you're right. If they do have 7, if you think about it, then East will be void, and then you are in a bit of trouble on this hand. But I wouldn't assume they've got 7. It's I would say that's not at all certain. So if they don't, but that's a good point. Thank you for raising that. But if they don't have 7, then we do have the 2 losers. If they have 7, then we might play it a little differently if we thought that was a real possibility. Thank you for mentioning that. But if they don't have 7, then you will be able to win a trick with the ace of spades. And the question is, can you set up any other tricks anywhere else? And the suit that you should be looking at here is the club suit. The club suit here is not quite as good as the other hands where you had a 6-2 distribution where you had 8. Here you've just got 7 clubs. You've got a 5-2 distribution, but nonetheless, there's the possibility that you're able to set up at least some club tricks here. And what you need to think about here is how many clubs do the opponents have, and how are they likely to be divided? So let's think about that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the opponents have got 6. Now, if we're lucky, the missing clubs will be divided 3-3. And if that is the case, we'd be able to set up the club suit by ruffing once. But more likely, they are going to be divided 4-2. And if that is the case, then we would have to ruff twice. Now, on this hand, as I said, we've got a lot of trumps here. So let's suppose we win that first trick with the ace, and that holds the trick. So breathe a sigh of relief there that East wasn't able to ruff that. And then let's start by drawing trumps. And again, we're going to try to keep our entries to the north hand as much as possible. So let's play the king on the first trick, and we get the slightly good news that the queen drops. So that means the missing hearts divided 1-1, and that's all the trumps gone. So now we can turn our attention to clubs, and we're going to try to set up the clubs. We'll start by winning in the shorthand again, crossing over to the ace. Okay, everyone follow to that. And now we're going to play another club, and we're going to ruff this one. And what we're hoping, the ideal distribution would be that West follows. And if they do, then our remaining 2 clubs would be good. But on this hand, West discards. So East still has a club, but we can still set up one more trick if we can keep on clubs and set up one more trick there. So fortunately, we have a lot of entries to the north hand. We cross over to the ace of diamonds, play another club, which again we ruff, and now we can cross back to dummy with the ace of hearts, and finally we can cash the 7 of clubs, discarding a spade. So at the end, we can play off our trumps, but at the end, we're going to have a spade loser, but we'll make one more trick. We'd make 12 tricks there rather than the 11 tricks we would have made if we'd lost 2 spades. Yes, we were a bit fortunate that there wasn't a terrible break in spades. It was 5-2. And yes, that observation that if it had been 7, we would have been possibly in trouble there. But so that was a lot of work, but we got one more trick by establishing the club suit. Okay, let's try this one. And here you've opened 1 spade. There's a double. Your partner passed. East bid 2 clubs. You bid 2 hearts. It went West now raised the clubs. Again, your partner passed. Again, it came back to you. And you've got very nice distribution here. So let's suppose rather than let them play in 3 clubs, you bid 3 hearts, and your partner puts you back into 3 spades. So you probably not going to go on there. Your partners had lots of opportunities to bid, and they kept bidding until you bid the hearts twice, and they correctly put you back into spades because they've got slightly better spades than hearts. So let's try and make a plan on this one, and let's try and think about how many losers we have. Okay, so let's think about that. I'm just going to bring up the next poll. Okay, so if we look at our losers, it seems clear that we're going to lose 2 diamonds and one club. And apart from that, we're not going to lose any spades, but we may have some hearts to lose. And what we want to try to do is avoid losing any heart tricks here. And we need to think about how the missing hearts are likely to be divided. So we've got 5 in our hand, 2 in dummy. So we've got 7. That means the opponents have got 6. And though we're going to try and cater to a 4-2 distribution of hearts. Imagine that they're divided 4-2. And if that is the case, we will want to ruff twice. And because they're divided 4-2, we will want to ruff high both times. So that's what we're going to do on this hand. So it's similar to the other ones, except your long suit is in your own hand this time. They might take a club and play another club, which you ruff. And because we're planning to ruff hearts, we're not going to draw trumps yet. We're going to play the ace and king of hearts, remember, catering to a 4-2 distribution, and then play another heart. If they follow, we're going to ruff, and we can afford to ruff high here. We've got the jack and the 10, so we'll ruff that one high. Yes, east discard, so that's good. If we hadn't ruffed high, we would have probably been over-ruffed. Now what do we want to do? Well, we want to get back to our hand because we need to ruff another heart. So we can perhaps get back with a club and play a heart, which again, we're going to ruff high with the jack. Now we've done that, we're going to try to draw trumps. So we play 1 round, play a 2nd round. And if both opponents follow, we now know there's just 1 trump left. So we're going to draw it. And finally, let's just bring up the 4 hands at this point. You can see that by ruffing the hearts, you've been able to set up the 8 of hearts, and you can make that 1 more trick there. After that, you're going to lose the last 2 tricks, but you'll make 10 tricks there, which is perhaps 1 more than you would have made if you'd lost a heart. So we end up losing those 3 tricks in the minor suits, but we don't lose any hearts by ruffing twice. So again, you need to think about the distribution, think about how many times you need to ruff, cater to the 4-2 distribution by planning to ruff twice high. And finally, let's look at this one. This is quite similar to the last one, except your hearts are a little better here, but you bid it the same way and you end up in 3 spades. And again, you can see your partner was right to put you back into spades after you bid hearts twice. And I'd like you to think about your plan on this hand. Again, we've got 3 losers in the minor suits, 1 club and 2 diamonds. And our goal here is to not lose any hearts. We're hopefully not going to lose any spades. So you need to think about the missing hearts. How are they likely to be divided? And how are you going to play the heart suit? So let's suppose they take the ace of clubs and try another club, which you ruff. Now, there are different ways you could play this, but let's suppose you start off playing the ace of hearts and the king of hearts, and everyone follows. I've now got the final poll of the evening, which is what card are you going to lead from your hand now? You've just won the ace and king of hearts. And the question is, which card are you going to lead from the south hand now? Let's see what we've got. And most of you have gone for a low heart, the 5 of hearts, with votes for the ace of spades, the 8 of spades. 1 person voted for the queen of hearts and 1 person led a diamond. Well, let's switch back and have a look at it. In fact, let's have a look at the 4 hands here. And what I see a lot of people do on this kind of hand is they take the ace and the king, and then they play the queen. And that's a mistake here, because you can see if you play the queen, we get a 4-2 division in hearts. So if we then just play a loser from dummy, it will get ruffed. what we want to do at this point is we cater to the 4-2 heart distribution, and you can avoid all the heart losers, yes, by leading a low heart. So if I click on the GIB button, it's telling you that you can lead in fact, almost anything. You could draw a couple of rounds of trumps, but what you're going to do is keep that queen of spades in dummy so that you can ruff a heart. And by ruffing a heart, you will then establish the suit. Okay, so in fact, the only two cards that will lead to you not making an over trick are the Queen of Hearts or the 8 of Spades, because if you lead the 8 of Spades, you'll have to take it with the Queen, and then you won't have any high trump in dummy. So yes, I'm with most of you. I would now lead another heart, a low heart here, and of course we ruff this one high so that it can't get over after if the heart's divided as they do. So having done that, you now must realize that your hearts are established. So all you need to do now is draw trumps. Okay, they fall in 3 rounds, and then your hearts are good. You play the Queen and the Jack falls, and the 8 is good as well. So after that, you can draw the remaining trumps, but you'll lose 2 diamonds at the end, but you'll make 10 tricks again. So you will just lose those 3 tricks in the minor suits, and you establish the heart suit there by ruffing once, and it had to be a high ruff to cater to a 4-2 division in hearts. Anyone have any comments or questions on that? So do watch out for those chances of a long suit and the chances to make a lot of tricks by establishing it. Sometimes you make a lot of tricks, sometimes you just make 1 or 2 extra tricks, but it's nearly always a good line, provided you can execute it if you have enough entries and so forth. And here the long suit, second suit was in your own hand. It could be in dummy, but either way, it's the same principle. Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions on any of that?